Life 2.3 million years ago unfolded on a planet that was both familiar and terrifyingly alien. Africa, the cradle of early humanity, was a land of dramatic contrasts, where open savannas stretched beneath a vast sky, broken by river systems, lakes, and patches of woodland. This was a world governed entirely by survival. Every sunrise brought opportunity, and every sunset carried the risk of death. It was here, in this unforgiving landscape, that one of humanity's earliest ancestors, Homo habilis, struggled to carve out a place among predators far more powerful, faster, and better equipped for violence. Yet danger did not always come in the form of fangs and claws. Sometimes it arrived on wings, towering above the grass, armed with bone-crushing strength and a territorial instinct that made it one of the most underestimated threats of the prehistoric world. The ancestor of the giant goose. Homo habilis, meaning the handyman, lived at a crucial turning point in human evolution. With a brain larger than that of earlier Australopithecines, but still far smaller than modern humans, Homo habilis was neither beast nor fully human as we know it today. Standing roughly 4 feet tall, lightly built, and covered in coarse hair, this hominin moved through the world with a mix of curiosity and caution. What set Homo habilis apart was not physical dominance, but intelligence in its earliest form. These hominins were among the first to intentionally shape stone tools, crude flakes chipped from rock to cut meat, break bones, and scrape hides. These tools were not weapons in the modern sense. They were survival aids, fragile extensions of fragile bodies. The African ecosystem of 2.3 million years ago was brutally competitive. Saber-toothed cats stalked the plains with oversized fangs designed to deliver killing blows. Massive hyenas crushed bones with ease, capable of overpowering almost anything they encountered. Crocodiles lurked in waterways, their armored bodies perfectly adapted for ambush. Early humans lived on the margins of this food chain, often scavenging rather than hunting, waiting for predators to abandon kills before risking a quick grab of meat. Survival depended on awareness, cooperation, and timing. A single mistake could mean extinction. Amid these well-known dangers existed another presence, one that modern humans rarely associate with terror: giant birds. Long before birds were reduced in popular imagination to harmless waterfowl or background wildlife, they occupied dominant ecological roles. The ancestor of the giant goose was not the small, placid creature seen waddling across modern ponds. It was enormous, powerful, and aggressive, standing well over 6 feet tall when fully upright, with a thick neck, massive wings, and a beak capable of delivering devastating blows. This bird was closer to a land-based predator than a simple grazer. These giant goose ancestors were perfectly adapted to life near lakes and floodplains. Their long legs allowed them to move swiftly across open ground, while their wings, though possibly incapable of sustained flight, added size and intimidation. Their beaks were not just for grazing vegetation. They could tear, strike, and defend with lethal force. Most importantly, they were intensely territorial, especially during breeding seasons. Any creature that wandered too close to nesting grounds risked triggering a violent response. For Homo habilis, water sources were lifelines. Lakes and rivers provided drinking water, edible plants, shellfish, and scavenging opportunities. But these same environments were hotspots of danger. Predators congregated there, and so did massive birds guarding their territory. One such encounter, repeated countless times across generations, represents one of the deadliest confrontations early humans ever faced: a vulnerable hominin versus a giant goose ancestor defending its domain. Imagine the scene. The sun hangs low in the sky, casting long shadows across tall grass. A small group of Homo habilis moves cautiously toward a lake's edge. Their bodies are tense, their heads constantly turning. They carry no spears, no fire, no true weapons, only sharp stone flakes held tightly in nervous hands. Hunger drives them forward. Perhaps a carcass lies nearby, or edible plants grow near the waterline. The smell of damp earth and vegetation fills the air. Unseen at first, the giant goose ancestor stands near its nesting area. Its presence is silent but commanding. Its eyes are sharp, its posture upright and alert. To this giant goose ancestor, the approaching hominins are not harmless foragers. They are intruders, potential egg thieves, potential threats. Evolution has taught this creature one rule: attack first or lose everything. The confrontation begins not with sound, but with movement. The bird spreads its wings, suddenly doubling its apparent size. Feathers bristle. The air fills with a deep, resonant hiss. Homo habilis freezes. Fear floods their nervous systems. Their instincts scream danger, yet curiosity and desperation hold them in place for a fraction of a second too long. Then, the bird charges. Unlike mammalian predators that rely on stealth, this giant goose ancestor attacks with overwhelming force and speed. Its long legs propel it forward in powerful strides. The ground trembles beneath its weight. Wings beat violently, stirring dust and grass into the air. The beak, heavy and sharp-edged, strikes downward like a hammer. For a Homo habilis individual caught at close range, escape is not guaranteed. The beak can shatter bone. A single blow to the skull or chest could prove fatal. Even a glancing strike could knock a hominin into the ground, leaving them vulnerable to trampling or repeated attacks. Panic erupts within the group. Some turn and flee immediately, abandoning tools and food alike. Others hesitate, attempting to stand their ground with raised arms and stones, driven by a desperate instinct to appear larger. The stone tools, revolutionary as they were, offer little protection here. A sharp flake might cut skin if it connects, but getting close enough to strike risks instant death. Unlike a mammalian predator that might retreat after injury, a territorial bird is relentless. Its goal is not to feed, but to eliminate the threat entirely. In these moments, intelligence becomes the only weapon Homo habilis truly possesses. Those who survive are not the strongest, but the fastest to read the situation. They learn to scatter, to create confusion, to retreat in multiple directions. The bird, despite its size, can only focus on one target at a time. This brief advantage allows some to escape, hearts pounding, lungs burning, bodies trembling with adrenaline. But not all encounters end in survival. Fossil evidence suggests that early humans faced significant mortality from large animals, including birds. Broken bones, cranial injuries, and sudden disappearances within small groups hint at violent deaths that left no trace beyond scattered remains. A lone Homo habilis separated from the group would have little chance against such a creature. Trapped between water and land, exhaustion setting in, the hominin's fate would be sealed in seconds. These deadly encounters shaped human evolution in profound ways. Fear became memory. Memory became behavior. Homo habilis learned, slowly and painfully, which areas to avoid, which sounds signaled danger, and which times of year were most lethal. Over generations, this knowledge was passed not through language as we know it, but through imitation, instinct, and shared experience. Children learned by watching adults hesitate near certain waters, by sensing tension ripple through the group when birds appeared on the horizon. The presence of giant birds as apex defenders of territory also influenced the development of cooperation. Alone, Homo habilis was nearly helpless. Together, there was a chance. Groups could distract, warn, and protect one another. A shouted alarm, a thrown stone, or a coordinated retreat could mean the difference between life and death. These small social advantages compounded over time, favoring individuals who stayed close to others and responded quickly to shared threats. The giant goose ancestor, for its part, was not a mindless monster. It was a product of its own evolutionary pressures. In a world filled with egg thieves, predators, and environmental instability, aggression was survival. Its size deterred many attackers. Its violence ensured the protection of offspring. For thousands of years, it dominated its niche, an undisputed ruler of its watery territories. Yet, evolution is relentless. As Homo species continued to evolve, brains grew larger, tools became more refined. Fire would eventually transform the balance entirely, turning night into safety and predators into prey. Giant birds, once dominant, would face new threats they could not adapt to quickly enough. Some would go extinct, others would shrink in size, retreating into safer ecological roles. But 2.3 million years ago, none of that was guaranteed. The outcome of evolution was uncertain. Homo habilis stood on a knife's edge between extinction and survival. Encounters with creatures like the giant goose ancestor were not rare anomalies. They were defining experiences. Each deadly clash etched lessons into the genetic and cultural memory of early humans. These confrontations remind us that humanity's rise was not a smooth ascent powered solely by intelligence. It was forged in fear, loss, and constant vulnerability. Long before humans hunted mammoths or painted caves, they were prey to cats, to reptiles, and yes, to birds that ruled their domains with ruthless efficiency. The image of a primitive human facing down a monstrous bird may seem surreal today, but it reflects a deeper truth about our origins. Survival favored those who could adapt psychologically as much as physically, those who learned when to fight, when to flee, and when to simply avoid confrontation altogether. The deadly encounter between Homo habilis and the giant goose ancestor stands as a symbol of that struggle, a reminder that our ancestors survived not because the world was gentle, but because they learned to navigate its cruelty. In the end, the plains fell silent again. The bird returned to its nest, feathers settling, territory secured. The surviving hominins vanished into the grass, wounded but alive, carrying with them another hard-earned lesson. Life 2.3 million years ago offered no mercy, only choices. And from those choices, made in moments of terror beside ancient waters, the long and fragile story of humanity continued.